Hello, all you weirdos. Jim here, and I'm going to do something a little bit different, though it's not really different because a lot of people already do such a thing, but I'm going to give you my books of the week, and I wish I had the sound effect for the breaking news, even though that's not breaking news, but I figured, hey, why not? Why not jump in, jump on, whatever, and go through what I think are some of the best books of the week, get a little more positivity up in this here joint. And we're going to start off with a book that I ended up liking, not as much as some other people, but the big play at the end of it is that we're going off to something that I'm not that excited for. But what I'm talking about is DC Comics Batman number 141, written by Chip Zdarsky with art by Jorge Jimenez and a backup story also written by Chip, but with art by Dustin McGuinn. And what we pretty much get is Batman versus the Terminator. You end up having Zur-En-Arrh in the robot body of Failsafe. You end up where he kind of slips in that back door part that he ends up saying that Batman was able to kind of take advantage of before. It's kind of all swirling around. And what this is a kind of like, hey, let's get to some kick-ass action. Let's do some things, because really this Chip Zdarsky book, though not everybody was loving it, it really got derailed by both Night Terrors with a K and also Gotham War. I wish that had a K as well. But it's one of those things where it's starting to gain momentum. It's starting to pick up again. And the art in this is really, really good. And a lot of people really did seem to enjoy the whole play here of Bruce Wayne trying to get away from what I said was the Terminator. It pretty much is Zur-En-Arrh in the failsafe robot, because what happens is Zur-En-Arrh wants to become the next Batman. He wants to become a robot Batman. Of course, Bruce isn't going to go for that. But by the end, with all this excitement, you end up having Batman getting grabbed, taken down by Zur-En-Arrh. And it's weird. I talked about this with my man Eric. Do you call him Zur-En-Arrh? Do you call him Zur-En-Arrh failsafe? Do you call him Zoran safe? I don't know. Somebody's got to come up with a better name for this deal. But he ends up getting grabbed, thrown in a prison, and he's there in a cell with the Joker. And so what we're going to do here going out of this is go from this book into a Joker Year One story. I'm not one that needs that. I've talked about being burned out by the Joker for a while now. And so when we go to that, I'm like, oh, we have some momentum going again. I mean, it's taken a bit to get the momentum back after, as I said, Night Terrors with a K and Gotham War. So here we go. Everybody's, we got to go back to Year One. And what it seems to be doing, Batman is really concerned. Hey, Joker, why do you know about my mentors? How do you know about Zur-En-Arrh? I think it's going to tie into a lot of the Batman the Night story that Chip Zdarsky ended up talking or writing. And also, he's been talking about the idea of rebooting that Three Jokers idea. Again, something that I don't really need myself, but the art's incredible. And the story really, gets you excited. It's just at the end, I'm like, oh man, we got to go to Joker Year One. But I still think it's one of the best books at DC. And overall, the other book that I'm going to throw out here from DC is a book that I wasn't fully on board, but I'm still kind of looking forward to it. A lot of hype going into the book. It's Kneel Before Zod, number 1, written by Joe Casey with art by Dan McDade. I didn't love the art. The art kind of threw me off, and I thought Joe Casey's story to start out here was a bit boring. I thought it was a little bit boring. You have a lot of yakety yak. You get Lord Zod, which is Zod's son, kind of going back and forth. And you know how those teens are. They start yelling and screaming and insulting you. Well, what we have here is Zod ends up giving them the backhand slap. And again, you're not allowed to do that, but you really want to sometimes, right? I don't want to get canceled. But you end up where this whole conversation, though, doesn't lead to that much, because Lord Zod has to get out of this book. It seems to go off and do the Peter J. Tomasi Sinister Sons. And I think that might be a misplay. It works in the continuity, and what Joe Casey does pretty well in this Kneel Before Zod, he really does grab a bunch of the continuity stuff, including the bottled city of Kandor, even the fact that Zod is there on this, what is now going to be New Kandor. Jakor is what the planet was, but he's renamed it New Kandor, and he's going to try to repopulate it with the Kandorians from the bottled city. I'll tell you, those Kandorians, those little guys and gals, every time they come out, they're always doing something wrong. So I think that's going to happen again. But overall, it kind of was just a lot of talk, talk, talk. It does get interesting by the end. You end up having a Kund attack. That's kind of cool, little. It's just kind of the action part of the book. But what it does is set up more of this conflict between the United Planets and Zod, the United Planets, wanting to know what Zod's up to. They want him to join fully into their little UN in space. And Zod wants no parts of it and is hiding pretty much weapons of mass destruction. And they're also doing genetic experiments. There's a lot of bad things going on. New Kandor, Zod wants to keep a wraps on them. So we'll see how it goes forward. Like I said, I didn't love the art, but the story might get better. And I do like Zod. I want to see more of Zod. I hope that we end up, and it might be one of those plays where DC says to Joe Casey, listen, you can't have Superman show up because that would kind of skew the book to it. He better show up. I want to see that. When I see Zod, I want to see Superman. I want to see them butting heads. So hopefully it goes forward with that. And I'll tell you, there's not a lot of books in this first episode of the Best of the Week here, because we're going to go off to Marvel, and I'm going to throw a book in here that I'm sure some people will roll their eyes, but I'm going to throw in Kid Venom Origins #1, written and art by Tagami. And if you're into manga, I think that you should check this out. If you're not into manga, maybe check it out as well. Now, these are reprinted stories. They were part of the Death of the Venomverse book. And I think it was from issues like 2 to 5 when that came out. So this is reprinted stuff that you could, if you have Death of the Venomverse or you have the Marvel app, you can go and check those out there. But if you haven't, I think that it's a decent thing to check out. It has that feel that it could be good when we come back with the actual #1 issue. There's going to be a series, mini-series, whatnot, in April, a Kid Venom deal. And again, it did have the feel of the manga. It just felt a little disjointed because it was a couple stories crammed together. But I still did dig it. I still like the art. And I like just the play of it and really what it boils down to, whether you need this or not. It's pretty much Demon Slayer is really what it is. It has all the tropes of Demon Slayer, but played out in feudal Japan. So it doesn't mess up. And a lot of people thought this was Kid Venom. Oh my God, it's like Spider-Boy. This is some lost sidekick of Venom. That doesn't make sense. And thank God they don't even try to make that make sense, because it is feudal Japan. You're kind of dealing with not quite the symbiote, but a thing going on in Japanese folklore, stuff like that. Again, I keep saying this stuff, and whether or not you're pish-poshing it or not, I do think you should go check it out. I do think it's something worth checking out if you are into manga or want something a little different. But the big book I thought this week, and big good book, there was another big book. It wasn't so good, but the big good book I think is Vengeance of the Moon Knight #1, written by Jed MacKay with art by Alessandro Cappuccio. And a lot of people were upset, me included, that you rebooted Moon Knight in a way that maybe we didn't need to. I mean, we had the death of Moon Knight, and then we get this Vengeance of the Moon Knight. And as far as we can see by the end, it seems as if Mark Spector's back as Moon Knight, but he's come back a little wrong. He's come back a little off. He's angry. All these things. He ends up, poor 8-Ball gets the crap kicked out of him. And what is 8-Ball bothering anybody now that he's trying to redeem himself, right? But that was a good play to show, oh my God, this Moon Knight is pretty violent. So what has happened? And a lot of people, when you had the death of Moon Knight, they thought Reese, the vampire, she was going to become the new Moon Knight. You end up where Jed MacKay is kind of, I think he's trying to play with people with it, because there she is. She's dressed in a white suit. She has a crescent necklace. But really what she's trying to do is just keep the Midnight Mission going on with Tigra, Hunter's Moon, 8-Ball. You have all these characters that I like. And I like the cast of characters that Moon Knight had from Jed MacKay, but the idea of rebooting it does kind of get under my skin a little. But the way that this issue plays out, I think it's a good jumping back on point for some people who may have fallen off of Moon Knight. And I thought that at one point, and people do like the book, but I thought at one point it was losing its hype. It was losing a lot of that je ne sais quoi, if you will. People weren't really talking about it anymore. And I actually dropped off it because I thought it was getting kind of boring. And yeah, the Death of Moon Knight, that got me back. So whether or not I complain about it, it's mission accomplished right here. And when you jump back in, it does feel like they're easing you in, as well as maybe giving some readers who hadn't read before a little bit. Not fully. It's never going to be 100% jumping on point, but it's very close. You end up getting character work. You find out about the deal and then go and end up with an awesome cliffhanger. And the whole play of reading this book is, I'm like, okay, this is kind of well. And when you get to that end, you're like, oh, crap, I got to read the next issue. So that is, again, a Jed MacKay mission accomplished. I just hope that now that we have this going forward again, let's get some good villains in here. Let's get some excitement from issue to issue. But this is good, and the art is really, really good by Alessandro Cappuccio. So that is my fourth and last book of the week to suggest to everybody. And so overall, I'll be doing this hopefully every week. I might have people join me. This is kind of a last second thing. I'm like, hey, what the heck? Let's throw it out there, right? Let's just throw it out there and see if it sticks to the wall. But let me know if you like it. Let me know if you want more of it. And I will end up, if there are some indie books that I'm into and things like that, I will, of course, talk about those as well. But that is this in, out, easy peasy. Thank all you weirdos for, joining me here. And let me know what your books of the week are in the comments. And as always, thanks everybody for watching this. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, do that. All that stuff that people say at the end of the videos. But I'm going to get out of here, and I'll talk to you all later.
You are all weirdos.
Weird science is the revolution. Weird science is the revolution.